What is your clinic's true potential? Is your clinic really generating the income it should be? Before you hire that next therapist or think of expanding to that next location, take a look at your revenue ratio and see if it makes sense. You see, many clinics struggle to hit the profit margins they should be generating simply because they don't operate from a place of maximizing their revenue ratio. However, the top 10% of clinics that are hitting 20% plus profit margins understand this principle and leverage it not only in their marketing, but operations and finance in order to get there. So let's work on this key principle, which is about understanding your revenue ratio. This simple yet powerful formula helps you understand how close you are to reaching your clinic's full revenue potential. So here's how to calculate it. All right, so here we're looking at your clinic's max potential visits per square foot. So you want to take your square footage, divide that by 1,000, and then multiply by 125 visits or so to give you a good average there. So let's take, for example, a clinic that's doing 2,000 square feet. We'll divide that by 1,000 and then multiply it by 125 patient visits per week. And what we should end up with here is about 250 max potential patient visits per week. Now, this might vary depending on the size of your clinic and also kind of your setup and things like that, but it's a very good average of what you should be shooting for in your clinics. Then we want to calculate the revenue ratio from this, which is basically your current revenue divided by your maximum potential revenue, and then we multiply it by 100 to get a percentage out of it. So let's take a look at how that looks. So let's say with our current revenue, we're doing about 180 patient visits per week in our clinic, and our average reimbursement per patient is about $85. That gives us, on a weekly basis, just over $15,000 in revenue. Now, I will divide that by what my clinic could potentially hit. And if my clinic was doing 250 patient visits per week, and then multiplied it by my $85 average reimbursement per visit, that would give me over $21,250 per week with that. So then I would multiply it by 100 and I get a percentage out of it, which would be about 72%. So right now my clinic is doing 72% of what it's capable of doing at its peak. And so that's a great way to operate in your clinic and see, are you really maximizing what you have right now, and how much of a gap do you have financially? And so if we look here at what that cost difference is for us, what that revenue difference is actually, our lost potential revenue on a yearly basis is over $300,000. So my goal is to make decisions within the practice that help close that gap. And the more that I do that, the more money we're going to have in the clinic and the more profit we're going to have in the clinic. And that's why it's so important to work on your revenue ratio. And so understanding this ratio allows you to unlock hidden revenue opportunities and fuel your practice growth. But don't worry, we've made it easy to figure this out. Let's take a look at our online calculator. All I got to go to is practicepromotions.net/revenue-ratio-calculator. And we have this all set up for you here. And what you would do is just punch in the square footage of your clinic or clinics. Now, you can do this if you have more than one clinic. You can do across all your clinics for your total square footage there, or you can do it broken up by each one. And so this makes it very easy. So let's just say on our calculator here, we have a clinic that's 3,000 square feet, and I get $85 average value per patient visit. And let's just say right now that my clinic generates $1 million a year, okay? And so that shows me here that my maximum potential patient visits per week at the square footage should be 375 visits. And this is my potential here for revenue based on that square footage. And right now I'm only hitting 60% of my ratio here. So I'm missing out on over $650,000 in revenue ratio there. So again, the goal here is to chip away at that, get my revenue ratio higher and higher and higher. And if your clinic's doing over 90% of your revenue ratio, then you're really crushing it. So the top 10% of clinics do their marketing differently to hit this revenue ratio, and they don't rely solely on physician referrals or sporadic advertising. Instead, they use direct-to-consumer marketing, and that's making their services visible where patients are searching online. And then they also work heavily on branding and positioning, which is how you look to a potential patient. So those clinics, they look professional, they look human, and they look like that go-to clinic in their community. They're also looking at how they can use marketing through every aspect of their practice, including patient engagement, hiring, and referral strategies. So they're really incorporating marketing that way. And so we're going to show you here the 3 core areas to build massive growth in your practice with these type of approaches. So in our training program, we're going to break down for you these 3 essential pillars. First off is Market2Grow. And this is all about attracting more new patients and reactivated patients using SEO, Google Ads, social media, email marketing, patient marketing. And then our next phase is going to be Market to Hire, which is about recruiting top talent by leveraging employer branding and direct hiring campaigns using Google. And then we're going to look at Market to Profit, which is how you optimize retention, how you're going to increase patient lifetime value, how you can lower your patient acquisition costs, and how you can diversify your revenue streams to maximize your profitability. When these 3 areas work together, your practice will scale faster than ever before. Now, another important metric to help you maximize revenue ratio is patient acquisition cost and also lifetime value. So to truly scale your practice, you need to understand these 2 critical metrics. So let's look first at patient acquisition cost. How much you should be spending on marketing to acquire a new patient. So the goal here is to lower your patient acquisition cost as much as possible. And patient acquisition cost is simply marketing costs divided by number of new patients. And then your marketing costs, if you do have someone that helps you with your marketing, you should include their salary into that. And so the goal here is if you're below $100 patient acquisition cost, you're doing pretty good. You're okay, right? But the lower your patient acquisition cost, the more money you will make in your practice. So let's just look at how this equation works. Again, from our patient acquisition cost, we're going to take our marketing spend and divide that by the number of new patients. And let's just say, for example, here we're spending about $5,000 a month on marketing, and we're generating 50 new patients a month for that. And that gives us $100 patient acquisition cost. Now, if our marketing gets better and our systems evolve and we're spending roughly about the same, about $5,000 a month on our marketing spend, but we generate 100 new patients for that, our patient acquisition cost lowers by half to $50. And so basically, the better your marketing systems, the lower your patient acquisition cost. And here's an example of one of our clients here that's generating a cost per lead of just $14, which is amazing. Now, even if not all of those leads are going to translate into new patients, but let's just say half, that would be $28 for a patient acquisition cost, which is absolutely amazing. So again, if you focus on improving your marketing, you can really lower your patient acquisition cost there. But the customer acquisition cost, the patient acquisition cost is actually just a piece of that puzzle, and your budget also generates revenue. So let's take this a little bit further here. Same scenario, patient acquisition cost is marketing spend divided by new patients. And let's just say this time I'm spending $2,500 per month on my marketing, and I generate 50 new patients for that. That gives me a patient acquisition cost of $50. Now, let's just say I level up my marketing, but I'm also investing in my marketing, and I double my marketing budget to $5,000 per month. Because of that, I'm able to generate 100 new patients now into my clinic for the same patient acquisition cost, $50. But here's the difference. So let's just assume we see a patient, 10, 12 times and $85 or so, let's say roughly $1,000 per case. For our first scenario here, where we're spending $2,500 a month, but we're still getting that $50 patient acquisition cost, we generate $50,000 a month in revenue. But by increasing our marketing just a little bit, we're able to double our number of new patients, keep our patient acquisition cost the same, but generate over $100,000 now in revenue. And so for an additional $600,000 a year in revenue generated, we only spent $30,000 in marketing difference. So the key thing here to understand is patient acquisition cost is very important to keep an eye on, but it's not the only thing. It's also how much of your budget you're allocating towards marketing spend. And what we find is that most clinics really underspend in their marketing, and so they don't hit their true revenue ratio potential for their clinics. And growth really comes when your clinic is spending about 5 to 8% of revenue, what you make, towards marketing actions. So that's really important to consider when you're looking at your marketing budget. Are you spending too little and it's choking your ability to grow your practice? And so what we find with our clients is that when they are achieving, $2,000 or more in lifetime value with $100 in patient acquisition cost or less, they're having massive growth potential. So let's talk about patient lifetime value here and what that looks like. So one of the goals here in your clinic is to raise your recurring revenue. And the goal here is to do patient marketing to make sure that you're getting people that you served before to come back in for care when they need you, and or to refer friends or family to you. And so this is important to keep an eye on because you're going to improve your patient lifetime value here. And so what we do is we look at our reimbursement per visit times our visits per case and how many lifetime cases. So let's just say, for example, I get a patient in, I treat him for 12 times at $85 a visit, let's say roughly $1,000, and that we see them one time. And we say, hope you're doing well, hope you never need this again, which is the absolute worst thing to say. But we want to be their therapist for life. Now, let's just say I keep marketing to that patient and I keep showing value to them. And they come back to us a few times over the course of a few years because something else or the problem crept back up. And now for that same cost of new patients plus a little bit for patient marketing, let's just say same number of visits here, $85, but now they come in 3 times in total. Well, I've generated over $3,000 for that same patient coming in. So the higher your patient lifetime value, the more profitable your practice will be. And this is really how practices scale. So it's very important to look at how you're doing that. So the key really is to keep your patient acquisition costs low and your patient lifetime value high by optimizing marketing, retention strategies, and patient experience. So in review here, now that you understand how to calculate your practice's revenue ratio and understand what your patient acquisition cost and your patient lifetime value should be, it's time to take action. So now it's your turn. Go ahead and calculate your revenue ratio. You can calculate your patient acquisition cost and also your average patient lifetime value. You can just use our online calculators for that. So in our next training videos, we will show you how to improve your marketing efficiency to lower your patient acquisition cost and grow your patient lifetime value. So do you need any help implementing these strategies? Let's talk. You can schedule a free strategy call with our marketing consultants at practicepromotions.net, and you can see how our systems and strategy can work to grow your practice. Thanks for joining me today, and jump onto our next lesson to see how to start growing your practice.